to, of course, the weaponry that was used in the test. We had just finished the war. Was the weaponry used that much different from what we'd seen in the war itself?
Not at all. We had, as you and I had been speaking earlier, we only had 7 nuclear weapons in July of 1946 when this test took place. The principle, now we had used 2 types of bombs during the war. The Hiroshima bomb, known as Little Boy, was what we call a gun-type weapon, where you have 2 masses of uranium-235 that are brought together via a gun barrel to form a critical mass of fissionable material. It's a very unstable design, and being able to produce enough uranium-235 is extraordinarily difficult. The other design, which was actually the Trinity test, and later the bomb dropped in Nagasaki, was more viable from a production standpoint. This was known as the Fat Man bomb, later named the Mark III, and it was a plutonium implosion bomb with a core of about 13.6 pounds of plutonium that you would then compress via implosion to set off the nuclear reaction. Now, the problem with the Mark III is that it was very difficult to assemble. Once assembled, it was only good for about 48 hours due to the batteries for the timers to set off the implosion device. There was an extremely small number of people qualified to actually assemble the bomb to begin with. It was very unwieldy. They didn't call it Fat Man for nothing, so it was very difficult to actually put aboard an aircraft, of which you only had a handful of special B-29 bombers, codenamed Silverplate, that had been modified to accommodate it, the size of the bomb within the bomb bay and the bomb doors. And so it just wasn't a good bomb. Not to mention, aerodynamically, it was horrible. It was equivalent to dropping a Ford Pinto out of the air and slapping wings on it, hoping to give it aerodynamic characteristics. It was a terrible design. So, to get to the point, by late 45, early 46, engineers at Los Alamos began developing what was called the Mark IV, where they tried to re-engineer the aerodynamics of Fat Man to make it a more accurate weapon. General Groves, who was still overseeing this effort, did not want to potentially risk exposure of a new advanced atomic weapon design there at Crossroads. So instead, the decision was made, let's use some of the existing stockpile, the older Mark IIIs. Once they're expended, we'll begin to replace them with the newer Mark IVs. So, to make a long story short, the weapons used for Shot Able and Shot Baker at Crossroads were essentially Mark III bombs, in no way changed from the weapon dropped in Nagasaki on August 9th.
Amazingly, we're standing right next to what looks to me like a pretty darn big bomb.
This here is a Mark III bomb. This would weigh about, fully armed, would be about 10,300 pounds. It has 2 spheres of plutonium weighing about 13.6 pounds in total. You have various sensor assemblies, in this case radars, fusing assemblies. You drop this out of your B-29 and there's where the problem emerged.
Right, I was going to just ask you, I couldn't help but to notice, Doctor, that at the very large bulbous front end, not terribly aerodynamic, and at the end, a very tiny fin strut coming up. This can't possibly have landed where you intended it to land.
Absolutely not. These are woefully inaccurate weapons. They recognized that early on. They did tests with this shape. Basically, it's just another of these steel casings with this big box fin assembly on the back, loaded with concrete. These were called pumpkin bombs. They dropped these on the rehearsals for Nagasaki and Hiroshima. They dropped these out in the American Southwest. They dropped these before Bikini, in the lagoon even, aiming at Armada. But for some reason, which we really don't know even to this day, on July 1st, 46, they missed and missed badly. As I said, about 710 yards away from the battleship Armada. Why is it? When we look back at this big box and fin assembly, there's some belief that maybe the fins were damaged. Maybe one of the fins broke. Maybe it came insecure, and you had an oscillation in the wobble. But the design is inherently non-aerodynamic. You add in a tail assembly that doesn't really help in any way to stabilize that clean fall. No matter how hard you try, you're not going to be that accurate. Although there's a saying, close only counts horseshoes, hand grenades, and nuclear weapons. And for the end of the day, it did detonate. The bomb did its job. But perhaps the engineering of the aerodynamics of the bomb, less so.